Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Excel College Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Chambers, joined by a new co-host today, Austin Smith.
What's up? How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good.
Austin has been a big fan of our podcast for a long time. So he came from a couple hours away just to co-host today. He's been calling me and saying, man, can I be on the podcast?
Totally.
I said no for episodes, and then finally today we're having him on. Welcome.
Yep, that's all true.
No, just kidding. Austin is actually our creative arts director and worship leader here at Excel College and Excel in general. You want to tell a little bit about the creative arts and worship?
Sure. Yeah, I'm excited. Creative arts is going to be, or it already kind of is in motion, but we're kind of building up to just a bigger thing here at Excel, where the creative arts will actually serve in 3 different capacities. So the lower school, the college for like the practicum phases, and then the institute, hopefully, which will be like continued ed classes and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah. That might be a problem.
Yeah. Austin's got neighbors also that live above him, and they're sliding chairs around right now. So hope you guys don't mind that on the podcast.
They also have a baby.
They also have a baby.
She's learning how to crawl.
Yeah,
so
that's learning how to crawl. So the baby, that might be a baby crawling noise, which would be
She
interesting.
might just be shoving
It sounds
something.
like something rolling. I don't know.
But yeah, Austin's amazing. So we've been friends for a long time. Big fan of Austin personally, and glad to have him on. So he also provided our new podcast setup. So if you're watching us on video, you notice we have 3 new microphones, which are amazing. You can go up, you can go down.
Did you just mess up the sound?
Oh
No,
no,
it should be
I'm
pretty
not.
quiet.
And so not only is Austin hopping on and hosting today, but we also have a new director producer,
Ooh.
Sage. Say what's up.
What's up?
Tell us a little about yourself.
I'm Sage. I'm a filmmaker, and I love corn.
Like the vegetable or the band?
It's
That's
not a
on trend.
vegetable.
Oh, okay.
It's gone.
It's cool.
I will never catch like in demand or
I'm
like
so sorry.
Trending things.
trending things. Yeah, I'll never catch those jokes. But Sage, why are you the new director, producer person? Like, what are you doing for your practicum?
I'm doing videography.
Hey,
Yay.
yeah,
Is that creative arts?
It is.
it is creative arts. Yeah.
I was gonna get there, and then the
Oh yeah, sorry.
noise from above,
The Lord spoke.
the thunder from above. But yeah, that'll be fun. Videography.
Yeah. So, creative arts practicum tracks. You want to talk a little bit about what you're doing for
Yeah.
practicum?
So for this current cohort coming up in January, everybody's doing their practicums. We have 5 practicum tracks for them, which Sage, as you just found out, is doing one of them, which is videography.
Nice.
We have photography, web design, graphic design, and worship leading. And currently there's a girl in worship leading right now. She's amazing.
Elizabeth.
Yes. Oh,
Amazing.
Yes. And then we're just constantly developing more relationships, and I'm hoping that the next go around for at least the college practicums, we're going to have a plethora more of
Heck yeah.
fun things to do.
Heck
So
yeah.
that'll be good.
It's literally building a creative arts program from scratch. That's been
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
It's been fun, and I'm not the best networker in the world, so it's been stretching.
But
too.
you're the best creative in the world.
Huh?
and you have chambers to network.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. You create, I network.
Oh yeah, you want to do some networking?
Yeah, John Seal Networks.
Yeah. Shout out to John Seal.
Yeah. And we've got a new media suite that's getting built.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That would
New
be
creative
awesome.
arts building.
Yep, we just got permits for a brand new building on
Woo!
campus.
Let's
And the
go.
whole basement's going to be the creative arts lab. I'm really excited about that. So we'll
Yeah.
have a full recording studio, a live room, some offices, some practice rooms.
Very angsty artist to have it in the basement of a building.
Well, the cool thing is half of the basement's going to be fully undergrade, like below ground. So it'll be like really soundproof
For recording.
Yeah.
for recording. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be nice. So
That's going to be amazing. Yeah. So this isn't like we're like, oh, we're doing some art tracks. Like we actually have a whole art studio building
oh yeah, that's going to be
tracks.
full
It's gonna be
blown for
legit.
sure.
Yeah. So Sage is going to be doing videography, going to Sundance in January.
I know. I'm
Oh
so
my
excited.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's
I've been dreaming of
amazing.
mine since I was a teenager, so I'm very excited.
Amazing.
Nice.
Sage, where can people check out your work, like your individual stuff?
I have a website that has all my portfolio stuff on it.
Nice.
Sagemeans portfolio.com.
Sweet. Aren't you on Instagram too?
Yep, you can find me on Instagram at Strange Sagey.
Strange
With a
Sagey.
3
Strange
for
Sagey.
an E, right?
Yeah.
Strange Sagey. We'll tag you in the reels.
Like
just
Stranger
so
Things?
Can figure out where to follow you.
Nice.
Strange,
Yeah.
like Stranger Things. Where's your Eggo hat?
I don't, it's not attached to my head, unfortunately.
Tragic.
It fell off.
It just fell off. Nice.
So that's Sage. That's Austin, and then we have a guest that's returning. That's been here a couple times already.
Yeah.
Cassadie, say what's up.
What's up?
Yeah. Speaking of like learning websites, Cassadie's been grinding on Webflow.
Dude,
That's awesome.
I don't know if it's been grinding as much as struggling.
That's one way to grind.
Yeah. So you're taking over website management for a lot of our websites.
Yep.
Coming on the marketing team.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's an easier version of coding,
Sweet.
sort of.
Amazing. Do you want to tell a little bit about what you'll be doing next year for Practicum? I put you on the spot with that. Sorry.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
There are a couple things I know for sure that I'll be doing. So, still continuing in marketing under this guy over here, Andrew Chambers, not Austin Smith. And I'll be doing web design and more copywriting, which is part of what I do now. Website management,
Social media.
social media management. And I'm also, the track I'll be doing is community program and development with some nuances.
Yeah.
So I'll also be working under Nicole Murray, helping her develop some things, some different projects. What, I'm not exactly sure yet, but.
Yeah. And house captaining.
And house captaining.
Yeah.
I'll be transitioning into house captain of the White House. What's up?
Shout out White
Yeah.
House.
Shout out
That's all I
White
know
House,
for
not,
sure.
not
Yeah.
in DC.
Not in,
Here on
no,
campus.
I am
Yeah. This White
not.
House.
No.
Anyways,
Every time I type White House on my phone, it capitalizes it. I'm like, I know that they're flagging us right now. Every time we type White House.
I never thought of that. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Yeah.
Dang.
Oh god.
All right. Anyways.
So yeah. Oh, but I forgot to actually. So if you're like new to the podcast, or if you have been following around, what is that practicum thing that we've been talking about? So at Excel College, we have 2 phases. We have the core phase, which walks through our liberal arts program and all of our modules that we walk through with the biblical narratives. So today we're actually talking about biology, and then in that phase you learn like what is this. You kind of come to discover what is reality, what is this thing that I'm living in here, and how do I live well within it? And then then you can start asking the question, now where do I fit in? And that's where your skill training and development comes in, and we do that through apprenticeships and internships. So Sage doing videography, Cass doing community and program development with marketing. Austin's running a lot of those tracks with creative arts, which is amazing. Been doing a great job with that. And so we'll do some podcasts on that next year, but today we're talking about biology.
Today, back to the core.
Back to the core. Boom.
Dang, that was good. I like back to
That
the
was
core.
good. That was good too. Back to the core, part 2.
Back to the basics.
Part 2?
No, part 1.
Oh.
I guess, yeah.
Part 4.
4. Yeah. So
4th module, right?
biology.
Biology.
It is so theology, philosophy, mathematics,
physics.
physics,
Ah, 5th
Bio-
module.
biology, module 5.
Part 5.
Part 5. How does biology kind of like connect to the previous 4 modules? And then, yeah, I guess let's start there. How does biology connect? You guys are both in the classroom right now.
Yeah.
So that was a curveball. I thought we were
Take it
just going to
away.
talk about biology.
You're like, here you go. I'll probably start. I'll like work my way backwards.
Yeah.
But so biology being the study of life on Earth, we first have to figure out, okay, well, if this is the study of life on Earth, which we'll get into, then what is the study of the Earth, and like how does the Earth work to create this platform for life to exist on it or within it? And so that's kind of what physics does, is it provides this platform of you're studying like how on Earth, sorry, dang it, I just
Nice.
made a pun.
Andrew Hawk would be proud.
But like, how is this possible for this little blue dot, which we watched a video that calls it the pale blue dot, and I'm just obsessed with it. But how does this little blue dot exist in such a perfect position in the universe that is like so massive and so mysterious and seems to be never ending? How does the Earth exist in such the perfect position for life to even be possible on the Earth? Like, how is our atmosphere, how is our environment so perfectly privileged? And we watch a video called The Privileged Planet that talks about how miraculous it is that the Earth's positioning in between like the sun and the other planets, and like how like just every little detail is so coincidentally placed, air quotes, and it's like one of the only planet that is conducive for life that we know of, like human life. And before physics, oh my gosh, what's before physics? Oh, math. And mathematics is the bridge between the immanent and the transcendent. And so physics and biology are both very like immanent. It's like the
Earthy
tangible,
now,
like grounded things. And math is kind of the gateway into those things from subjects like theology and philosophy. But it provides the abstract, because there's this saying that Davis always says, and he's like, you can't have a bucket of 3.
Yeah.
Like,
go find me some 2.
Yeah, go find me some 3. And so there's like this abstract portion to math where it's like, 3 is actually like this. Your brain actually has to go outside of something, like transcend something in order to understand this concept of 3. But it's also the like foundation for so
it's
much.
It's like this ethereal thing, but it's also super real.
Yeah,
and practical.
like you count.
Yeah.
And you like build bridges with this, and you like it's something so abstract that actually builds the foundation for like physical laws and all that
It's
stuff.
been called the language of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that analogy, the transcendent and the immanent coming together. Mm-hmm. It's like you literally can't find a 3, but 3 is a very real.
But you can like you can give examples of like, well, there's 3 of us.
Yeah.
But you can't, like, this is not a cup of 3.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's actually a law to it. Like 3 + 3 = 6.
All the time.
All the time.
No matter where you are.
But you still can't find 3.
No. It's so interesting.
That's trippy. Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And before math comes philosophy, which is where like you open back up into the more transcendent subjects. Philosophy, we ask the question like, how do we wisely answer life's 4 biggest questions? So you talk about what is knowledge, what is real, what is good, what is ahead. Kind of just asking life's biggest questions that people wrestle with of like, what is the meaning of life?
Yeah, totally.
So you have to start there before you dive into things like mathematics and then the more immanent things, because philosophy, and even going back to theology, which we tend to call our myth, is like what we believe about the transcendent things and what we believe about like how was the universe created? Who created it? Do we believe it was a who, or do we believe it was a what? Do we believe that life has meaning, or is it meaningless? Do we believe that it is good, or that it is not good? Do we believe it's headed somewhere good, or is it just going to hell in a handbasket? And it's those things that actually form the foundation for how you're going to view the more imminent things like mathematics and like physics and biology. And it informs your whole worldview for the rest of your life.
Wow. That's a good recap.
Ta-da!
Let's go. Yeah. It's like you can't ask questions. You can't figure out the answers to the big questions of life until you get the answers to like who's God? What's he like?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is God good?
Yeah, totally. Queen of the science, theology, queen of the sciences.
Yeah.
So now we have biology. So, with all that in mind, what were some of the key like takeaways for biology and kind of where we're at in the program right now?
Yeah. Biology was very interesting. I sucked at science in school, and biology was my least favorite subject. I would have taken...
Mine too, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. People loved it, and I was like, this is so boring to me. I don't want to talk about plant cells or animal cells, and just don't care.
We didn't get to dissect anything. We were just like studying all the text.
Dude, I had such a fun biology class.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd y'all do what made it stand out for you?
I don't know. my teacher was crazy, so she was really
Like in a good way?
like.
Did you dissect cats?
Yeah, mostly. It was fun. Like she was just wild and fun. And
Yeah.
we dissected tons of stuff. We did like
Did y'all
projects.
do cats though?
Did you do a cat?
Yeah, we did a cat.
Did you go out and kill a cat and then dissect it?
We didn't kill one. We got them from
That's
some lab
horrific.
that was already ready. To,
Prepackaged.
That's a great politically correct answer for the podcast. We'll talk about
Really?
the real story later. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I'm like good piece.
I was like, I don't know what I say. Anyway,
We do
it was
not
fun.
support the killing of cats on the Excel College podcast.
Shout out to Miss Hagen. If you ever listen to this, I don't know if you will.
We love you.
Yeah,
Very thankful
you're a
for
great
your
teacher.
You don't
influence
kill cats.
on Austin's
I'm
life.
just to
Yeah,
clarify.
Sorry, I'm just derailing us.
That was fantastic.
Okay, anyways.
Anyway, it was really cool coming from sir. It was really cool coming from physics into biology. Physics blew my mind. Contemplating your spot in the universe and the fact that if 1 centimeter was off in anything,
It's crazy.
like you wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
It would be impossible for you to exist if anything was shifted even like a millimeter slightly to the
Are you
left.
serious? Like if
Yeah.
the Earth was a millimeter closer to the sun?
I'm pretty sure. At least that's what the pale blue dot
Dang.
talks about. Yeah, like if anything
That is
was
way
like
wild.
off, it would be different. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
might
yeah.
have life, but it wouldn't be Homo sapiens.
But the environment would be different.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, it was just wild. Like, yeah. Anyway, it was really cool. It can cause existential crises for people who still struggle with the question of meaning and purpose in their
Yeah.
life, which is why we talk about theology and philosophy first. But
Oh, wow. Yeah.
yeah. But then you come into, okay, so you were privileged and blessed and gifted with this planet that you live on that allows you to live as a human being as you are. So now let's study like this life on Earth that exists the way it is, in no other place like in the universe that we know of. So that to me was just really cool talking about that transition. And then we start with the origin of life.
Okay.
There's this life on Earth. How did it get here?
Uh-huh. So not like origin stories like we talked about in theology?
Not
but actual,
not
like,
myths.
Scientific. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So
okay.
like actually, where did life start?
Okay.
Which most people think is a scientific question, and they try to study like living forms.
Yeah.
And like our matter, our material existence, to figure out, okay, where did this material existence originate from?
Huh.
But one thing we learn about in biology is that it's not all just material, especially when it comes to human beings, specifically. And you can't really find the origin of life by just studying the material universe.
Interesting.
The origin of life is actually beyond the reaches of the scientific realm.
Huh.
And that's in one of the readings we talk about. It's called A Dialogue on the Origin of Life. But yeah, the question of where did life come from, where did it start, is actually it's beyond science.
Okay. Let's camp there for a second because I can hear people listening going, what do you mean it's on, like, what do you mean science can't find that?
Yeah.
So can you break that down a little bit more, or like, what do you mean by that? Like the question of the origins of the universe is beyond science.
'Cause it goes into, I mean, first, people have to recognize that when we talk about life, in one of our classes, we were asked to define life.
Uh-huh.
We were like, okay, well, it's this and this and this. And our facilitator kept saying, oh, that's a good attribute of life. Like, that's a good aspect of it. But you're not actually defining life.
Interesting.
Or we were giving requirements for life to exist.
So we could say like breathing is life, or
Right.
blood flow is life.
Or
But
like even conscience, like because that's
Right.
like kind of out there, but it's like, that's not fully it.
yeah, it's part of it. Because then
Huh.
you still also have like blood pumping through your body and
Huh.
breath in your lungs. And so life is actually this like very similar to mathematics, this abstract
Whoa.
concept
Huh.
that is beyond science, but it's also still in the immanent realm and still can be studied by science. But science can't answer the question of where it came from.
Wow.
Because it's not purely matter, and science is a study of things that are material and physical. And so, like when somebody brought this up in our discussion during class one time, but when people try to study a body for the sake of studying where life came from, you're not actually studying life because there is no life in that body.
It's dead.
It's dead.
Whoa.
So you're studying something that was once alive, that once had life in it, and was carrying life, but you're not actually studying life because the life is gone.
The ruach.
Even though the physical body is still there. So clearly life is not all physical because the physical stays when somebody's dead.
Right.
It's very interesting. I was like, what is going on?
I love the way that you talk about that with, like you can, like scientists and people that use like the discipline of science can study like material, like life forms, and kind of like they can get to a certain place as far as that discipline goes, as far as like discovery goes.
Yeah.
But there's a place that you need another discipline to get beyond that. And I think you said, I think it was Davis in class talked about like we need to stay in our lane.
Yeah.
As far as like the different disciplines goes.
Yeah, which is super interesting too, because I think in one of our readings it talks about how, yes, the origin of life is beyond the reaches of science, but it's also veiled beyond the fact of life and creation in the Bible. And so a lot of people will be like, well, assume that just like because I'm saying science can't figure it out, like, oh, well, the Bible will tell you.
Yeah.
And the Bible will tell you like where life came from, or how like our biological life exists on Earth. But in reality, it tells you just life was created.
Yeah.
And it exists and it was created, and it tells you who created it.
And why.
And why.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, the Bible is not a scientific explanation of biology. It's not a scientific explanation of what life is or like how it came to be as it is in existence today. And so I think both the church and science, as David says, like they both have amazing authority and amazing things to bring to the table, but they need to recognize when they're starting to cross out of their lane, and they need to stay in their lane.
So good. There's such honor in that, I think, because it's like they should be complementary disciplines,
Right.
and not like science is not real,
Right.
or like faith is stupid, blah. It's like, no, like you actually both bring a lot to this table. Like let's work together to get to a place. I love that.
That was one of my favorite discussions. Is faith the rival to science?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
that, oh yeah,
That was
yeah,
a good one.
Yeah.
Was that in biology?
No, it was physics. I think.
Yeah. I think we did talk about that. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit? Because I think it's super important. Because like, especially when you get in the topic of origins or
Origins.
origins.
Oranges.
Oranges.
Just think oranges in your head.
Origins. When you get there's such a. It doesn't feel like a safe conversation for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're attacking my worldview if you have a different theory of origins than scientific. So do you want to talk about like faith and science aren't rival?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's kind of a taboo thing, at least like the way most of us Western Christians right now like kind of grew up. Because, you know, it's a little apologetic-y, like, you know, there's like different spectrums on all that stuff. So even just without context posing is faith a rival to science, everyone kind of like backs up a little bit, you know. It's like
I don't actually know.
think
so.
So but with context, like in the classroom, it was a little bit easier of a transition of like, as the core is like, let's just bust everything open and reanalyze everything that I ever believe. And and so during that discussion, it was really cool because just like Cass said, just like, you know, we often think that like science and Christianity or faith like can't necessarily work together because, you know, science, the way we grew up knowing it, is more evolution or more like, you know, all these pre-assumptions that we all bring to the table.
Yeah.
Yep.
But science, like she's saying, is really just reading matter. I mean, that's what scientists, you know.
Yeah.
Reading God's works, right? Isn't that what?
Yeah, the book
Yeah.
of God's works.
Yeah.
Yep. and the Bible, like, is the book of God's word, but we also, as humans, need to learn how to read the book of God's works. And that's through the scientific method, science, you know, studying that kind of stuff. And so approaching it that way made it a lot more chewable in that sense. But yeah, exactly. Like science can only go so far. They can tell you a lot, honestly, a lot more about life really than the Bible can. And so to honor that, you know, and not be like this, you know, shields up Christian of like, I only believe what the Bible says and nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, like science is like this whole huge missing part that you're missing out on. So like, if you just honor science for what it is, because it's amazing, listening to what it says, you know, still having your beliefs or whatever, but listening to what science says on the material side of things, and still continuing in whatever assumptions or whatever myth you believe in, those partnered together actually makes you more of a whole person. You have more of a whole mindset, I believe. But so that was kind of where we were going, like in our discussion. But
Yeah, in biology, we talk a lot, because the origin of life also comes with the question of purpose, usually tied in people's minds. Like, they think, well, if I find the origin of life, I'll find the purpose of life. But then when they find that the origin of life is actually pretty mysterious and is not answerable by science and veiled in the Bible, they get all tied up. But that is one thing, you know, science can study the material and answer a lot of questions that we have about life.
Yeah.
Even if the origin of it is beyond its reaches, science still does its job really well.
Yeah.
But when it comes to purpose, people can also look to the Bible for that, because the Bible does talk about purpose and meaning.
Totally.
Even if it doesn't tell you the origin of life, it can still answer your questions about purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
so they're both important.
Yeah.
Because once science gets past matter, that's up to the theologians and philosophers.
Yeah.
That's what Davis always says. You know?
Yeah.
Totally. So what you're saying is like, I'm not gonna go to science and ask like why or like what does this mean for me. Like we're gonna go and ask like how does this function, like, you know, maybe even like how does it operate in life, and then I'm gonna go to like scripture, like theology, for like what does this mean for my life, like why am I here, like those kind of questions.
Right.
Yeah. And I think if we can, just like as a faith community, like actually, and like as a, you know, the scientific community as well, like actually can respect that, like that dialogue, it actually helps people bring a lot to the table. A guy that was a big game changer in that for me was John Walton, that wrote that book, The Lost World of Genesis 1. So John Walton is he's an Old Testament scholar, like one of the best in the world. And he wrote a book called The Lost World of Genesis 1 because there was this debate of like, if you have to read the Bible literally, and so then you therefore have to say like today's scientific community is attacking the Bible. And so faith people have their shields up, scientific people have their shields up, and like not knowing that there's a ton of faith people that are practicing scientists all over the world, you know, and amazing scientists. And so John Walton was just like, he's like, I'm coming at this from a purely scholarly like angle, and I'm just saying that you guys are asking the wrong questions, and like you guys are kind of talking about things that don't really matter, and trying to do things that the Bible's not trying to do. And that was a lot of freedom for me because it took a lot of pressure off of like, I've got to like I've got to fit the Bible into like the current scientific narrative, or I have to fit my perspective of science like into like what the Bible says. You know what I'm saying? Because it just gave a lot of freedom because I was able to see like how the Bible is like actually trying to operate and communicate.
Right.
Which was helpful. So
I think there's a lot of humility too in saying, both for scientists and Christians, to say, yes, this is one thing that I don't have the answer to. And that comes with being a finite human being.
yeah.
There was a quote from one of the readings that I really liked that kind of just sums it up. And it's that the secret of life is withheld from us, but the source of life is proclaimed to us. It's like,
So good.
there's still life,
Yeah.
and we know like who created it. But we don't know that secret thing.
Yeah.
that makes it
Mystery.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And
Are we okay with that?
yeah,
Like,
Yeah. Just randomly in my head, I was thinking about even just in the, like, kind of combining the two, like the ruach, like the breath of life, is like such a transcendent thing, but also such an imminent thing at the same time.
yeah,
It's like, where did that first breath come from? The animated man.
yeah,
Even if you don't believe in the Bible, where did that first breath come from?
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
like the ruach, breath of life, is like something that I'm doing right now, like breathing, like very real, very matter based, but also it's the super transcendent thing that when I, like you said, when I lose my breath and die physically, then my physical body is dead, but did my whole being die? You know,
Right.
that like wrestle,
Wow.
Yeah.
that mystery of it all too.
Huh.
So you start thinking like future as well,
yeah.
of just like,
Wow.
yeah, where does life go?
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, type of thing.
Huh. Did
Like
y'all
after
address
the
that?
body
Where, like,
dies.
where does life go?
A little bit.
a little, yeah,
We always on the fourth week, it's more like teleological. So like purpose, like where's the end, the means type of thing,
Okay.
or more the ends, not the
yeah,
means.
no,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And so we talked about that a little bit.
What'd you take away from that?
I actually don't remember a ton from week 4.
I think a lot of people, or I know a few people, it was in their reflections, like of the week.
Oh,
Like,
was that the
or at least I
habitation
was
of life?
talking to people about that.
That was habitation, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But it was more of just like, I think it just sparks those thoughts in your head of just like, yeah, more of a fun road to go down, I think. Just
Yeah.
again, because you show up with so many like assumptions that you don't even fully realize that you
That you
have
have, yeah.
until you get there, and then you start digging in. So then you start asking more questions, and yeah.
I think the way that we discussed that actually had a lot to do with evolution, because we were talking about, okay, like if macroevolution is real, like if that's an assumption that you hold and still believe in,
It completely changes the game.
right? Because we're not even going to be us.
We're gonna be superhumans.
Yeah.
Flying around.
So that changed, like, that would change
Huh.
somebody's worldview of their teleology, how they view where the world is going, because it's like, well, there might not even be any more actual Homo sapiens left, and we don't know what we're gonna be. Are we gonna be like
Oh, interesting.
lizards? Are we gonna be like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
are we gonna look like? And so yeah, that was an interesting one for me. And I didn't personally wrestle with that, because I don't believe in macroevolution. I do believe in microevolution, which is like small changes to attributes
Yeah.
to better adapt to
Yeah.
the environment
It's like a bird in Ecuador
with the
with the beak is more suited for his environment if his beak is longer and he can get seeds out of the ground. That's
Right.
micro. Versus like humans came from monkeys is macro.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Which humans did not come from monkeys. Just putting that on the table.
Cass is very adamant about that.
I am.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
That's
it
the hot
in
take.
But
anthropology.
we are gonna get there in
We are
anthropology.
We are? Why?
Yeah. Is man a beast from birth?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't want to get
We
it.
don't want to ruin
We'll
it.
save
We don't
that for
wanna
Hawk.
go down that. Yeah. So just camping there for a second. So you guys did cover kind of just on like our science and faith rivals, just on like what is the Bible actually trying to communicate, what's science trying to do, and then you looked at the evolution stuff so after that, so like not as a part of that conversation, but okay, now let's take it on its own merits from a scientific standpoint, a philosophical standpoint.
Right. Which, I mean, Darwin was freakishly intelligent. All the scientists that we study are genius and have an incredible mind and did their job excellently. Like that is one thing we talk about all the time, just in general here, is Christians, especially nowadays, can sometimes, very often actually, neglect excellence in like the material world or in their job or in like the secular world, which to most of the church today, science would be secular. When in reality, like we are called to be excellent in all that we do and to steward all that we have, including the secular world, which, yeah, I don't, it's not actually secular, because if God is God of the whole world and the whole universe and everything in it, then he's also God over science, and he's God over the music industry, and he's God over math and everything else. And so you have to acknowledge that science is under his realm and his reign as well. And if you go into those fields, like do those fields excellently, like study science as science is meant to be studied, and honor its authority, honor its realm.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was going to say, is just like, yeah, even if you disagree with someone like Darwin, right? Like you can still respect the heck out of the guy. I mean, amazing stuff, you know?
And take pieces that you do agree with.
Yeah,
like I do
totally.
agree with microevolution. I think his theory applies to certain things, just not maybe the thing that he was trying to apply it to. And
Interesting.
But I think Christianity just stiff arms stuff like that.
right.
We're scared of it, I think.
Maybe,
Right.
yeah.
Which, Davis asks that question all the time. He always asks us, what are you so afraid of? Why do you think that this has to stay this way?
Wow.
Or why do you think this has to be the assumption? Like, what are you actually afraid of? If you believe that God is all powerful and all good and all these things, all knowing, then why are you so afraid of this being true and
Yeah,
right?
It's big enough for him.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's good.
I think it just gave me, because we did talk about the chart a little bit and like how humans,
Oh my gosh.
like shouldn't they be on the chart?
Taxonomy
And I think we're
chart.
going to get into more of that in anthropology, but like there is something very specific and unique about human life. And we were like kind of pointing towards that, all of biology, because we like went to the zoo and saw the animals and all the things. And then, you know, but there's something significant about man, like mankind. And I think that honestly just gave me a better appreciation, kind of in the same vein of just like appreciating humans, just like human life in general, you know?
Well, and before this module, when people would ask me, well, what makes man so different from an animal? I actually struggled to answer. So I was thinking like, well, we're all in the same class, like we're mammals, we're da-da-da-da, I was like, oh my gosh, what makes man different from animal? And I hadn't been asked that question in a long time, actually. It was more so in high school, and we had a lot of debates. But we actually learn about the law of identity and how something that is similar to another thing, but has even the slightest possibility of having or being something different, cannot be the same thing. And so man can have similarities to animals and have likeness to animals, or like share certain attributes, but because there is something to man that animals do not have, man is something entirely different. So they can look similar on a chart and not actually be the same thing. Because man has the ability to, like, we have a conscience, we have the ability to choose, we have will, we have a soul, which some people believe animals have souls, but I don't. And
All dogs go to heaven. Did you see that?
I never actually saw it.
You're too young for it.
I heard
Yeah.
everybody talk
That's
about.
my
My
rebuttal.
sister watched it, but
Anyways.
no, I want dogs in heaven. I just don't think they have souls. But I believe that God gives good gifts, and I really want a dog.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
I'll subscribe to that myth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so something that is similar does not mean that it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I had that stuck in my mind when we were talking about the taxonomic chart. I was like, man, we can have some similarities and not be the same thing.
Totally.
But people were very like adamant on one side or the other. Man has to be on the chart, or man should not be on the chart at all.
Yeah.
And I even came to the question of, what are we so afraid of? Like, why does it have
Why
to
does it
be
matter?
either way? I mean, man has been on the taxonomic chart for as long as I've known about the taxonomic chart.
Yeah. It's a classification system.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, but I will say, I do think your worldview philosophy will, and this is going back to like the science and faith thing, but because science and faith should be partners, complementary, especially because we invented this stuff. As far as like Christians were the ones that decided to practice the scientific method and invented
Right.
the scientific method because they thought you should discover about God's world.
Fun fact.
So, fun fact, yeah. So Christians shouldn't be afraid of science because we invented it. But I do think the way that you view the world dictates how you practice science. And so I talked about this a little bit recently, but like, just like right now, I hate when people say, well, the internet said.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
Like, no. A person on Twitter said that, And it's like, same thing as like when people say science says, what they're trying to say is there's a group of people that got together, they had a hypothesis, they developed a test to study it, and then they studied it, and then they came to a conclusion, then they put it out, and like the guy has a name, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But we say science says because it's like our new God, essentially,
Right.
to some extent in culture, and it gives it this authority. But all that to say, like I think your worldview and the scientist's worldview will dictate how they practice science and how they practice the scientific method, and so. I do think it's important that you recognize the assumptions in the worldview that you come to your studies with, because like with the taxonomic chart thing, that's where I was getting at, is like oftentimes groups of scientists will study animals and they'll have a hypothesis and then they'll apply that hypothesis to like humans. Yeah. So like the animals have this desire, and we found that after we did X amount of study with rats and like we gave them X amount of things, like they did this. And so therefore humans are more prone to do this. It's like, whoa, like we're two different things. You know what I'm saying? Like you wouldn't study rats and parrots and then, and so like, but they do it with rats and humans.
Rabbits, dogs.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's even scientific reasons to
Right.
to start thinking that direction.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Well, they
can't
look
directly
at like
translate.
biological and chemical similarities, which is why they like, for a long time they were testing things chemically on rabbits, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole like, well, we can have similarities in certain structures of our physical likeness, but
Yeah.
it's not the same thing.
And and you can take that so far. So like maybe you can study skin similarities and say, okay, well, if we apply this to a rabbit and it doesn't hurt the rabbit, then I can probably apply it to a human and it doesn't hurt.
Right.
But then there's like, I think I said this last time, but just about that study of like, they were studying a pack of wolves. And it was like, it was, it wasn't, okay, I'm glad we got here. This is the distinction I was trying to make. So it wasn't like skin scientists that were studying like dermatologists. Yeah, it was like dermatologists, yeah. It was like anthropological scientists were studying wolves to make conclusions about humans. So they studied how like a male wolf oftentimes, like if he's impregnated all the females in the pack and he's trying to prove his alpha maleness, he will dominate another male wolf in a sexual way. And then they were like applying that to like, so what does this mean for humans and like homosexuality? And it's like, I don't know that those are the same. That you. Well,
no, because then if you apply that to humans, it's that you would have to have a pack of humans, like a group of humans.
Yeah.
That was majority female. Like it would have to be a very controlled experiment or like social experiment to be able to say that, yeah, it's the same thing, because the wolf was just fulfilling an instinct.
Yeah.
And if you believe that man and animals are the same, and you believe that man just runs purely off of instinct, I don't think that other male wolf necessarily wanted to be dominated in a sexual way.
Yeah.
And so what are you saying about humans?
Yeah.
What are you saying about male humans? In
That's
a
great
group.
question. Yeah. Yeah.
because there's other animals that like actually pick one partner and like have them for life.
Birds.
Yeah.
This is why I love
Birds
birds.
do?
Yeah. Most, like
Interesting.
a lot of bird species.
Yeah.
I found that out and was like,
Really?
birds are my
Seahorses,
favorite.
you know, like the
Yeah.
male carries the
The
baby.
male carries the baby, so therefore human males should carry
No,
babies.
I'm just being dumb now.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's important though, because like you have to understand like how far am I, like what discipline should be operating here? And I think that's what
Right.
you were getting at earlier is, you know, like, okay, in anthropology, like what should science be operating here or faith be operating here? And like, how do we know which discipline that we're kind of running in right now and who should be speaking to it? So,
Right. Well, and there's a lot of, the assumptions lie your bias to supernatural causes or natural causes,
Yeah.
which is the same of like science or faith.
Yeah.
And Davis is a big proponent of stop talking about supernatural or natural causes. Stop talking about them like they're opposing, first of all. And also stop assuming that there's a supernatural or a natural cause and just talk about causes.
Yeah.
Like
so good.
release your bias when you come to the table to study. Lay your bias on the table, which means you have to recognize it, first of all.
Yeah.
And actually just study the thing and let the thing tell you the truth about itself, whether it's supernatural or natural.
Yeah. So good.
That's super good.
Yep.
Yep. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I guess at the end of biology, we're moving into anthropology.
Yeah.
And the question of,
Is man a beast from birth?
oh,
Is man an animal?
so we'll talk about that next time with Andrew Hott. You have a hot take on it before we go?
No.
No, you don't have a hot
Her
take.
face is blood red with like a vein pulsing. No.
Take that as you will.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always
fun.
good to have you. So, that's another episode of the Excel College Podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We are a week away from launching our next class.
Woo!
Holy
C7 comes
Crazy.
next Wednesday.
Dang.
my lord.
Dang gum. Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Double
we got
in size.
37 people coming. Shout out to all you C7 guys. I know you're going to be listening to this because you're big fans of the podcast. No?
Yes.
Maybe? Yes. We'll see you soon. Thanks everyone for joining us, and see you later.
Peace.